Hi, my name is Natalie Beck. I'm a licensed clinical social worker with ChildLink in Chicago, Illinois. ChildLink is a community-based nonprofit that provides individual, couples, and family therapy. In light of the coronavirus pandemic, we have decided to transition our therapy services to be fully sustainable online by telehealth. Additionally, we've decided to release a web series to provide you helpful information about mental health so that you can help maintain and manage your symptoms throughout this period. The video that you're about to watch is from a longer video on anxiety from this series. If you're interested in viewing this longer video, or if you'd like to see other videos on different mental health topics, please feel free to check out our Facebook and Instagram pages, where you can like and follow to get more updates and information about our web series, as well as information about ChildLink. If you or someone you know is experiencing concerning mental health symptoms, please feel free to reach out to us if you're interested in therapy services at the contact information provided at the beginning and end of this video. And now, let's get into some strategies to help you manage your anxiety. There's a saying in dialectical behavior therapy that worry is like a rocking chair. It keeps you moving, but it takes you nowhere. And that's because worry is a repetitive negative thinking process that occurs after an initial concern about your future. So you'll have the concern and say, what if this happens? Or what if this goes wrong? Or what if this occurs? And after that what if question, you then begin engaging in a worry spiral that is largely based around guesses, assumptions, and predictions for the future rather than effective problem solving. So worry, in comparison to problem solving, is more a constant repetition of concerns and assumptions and guesses rather than information gathering or logically processing through information that you've already gathered. So for this reason, we often encourage people to try to have a time period that they can set aside to have their time to worry or have their concerns so that they have a break from it. Because what you want to really do is have a balance between avoiding your issues completely to where you're not addressing them and you're not processing them, but you also don't want to do the exact opposite of that, where you have concerns and worries that are nonstop and constant to where you're really just kind of spinning your wheels. Especially with worry, it's very common to feel like there's some sort of value that you're getting out of it, that if I worry about it enough, that means I'll be prepared for it. If I worry about, this, and this happening, at least I'll be prepared. And that's actually not true, because when you worry, you're less engaged in logical considerations and you're more just kind of spinning in the same thought process and in the same thought loop. So piecing apart time for yourself to have an effective space to really limit that exposure to information is going to also be helpful, because you're going to be much more mindful about seeking out information and gathering data. COVID is a perfect example of why limiting your exposure time is really helpful if you're someone who engages in worry. The current pandemic that we're in is obviously something that none of us could have predicted. No amount of worry could have helped us to really realistically prepare for what happened, because this is a whole new experience that many of us have had. And there are changes that happen on a regular basis from either the CDC or the World Health Organization or from your governor or for the federal government that directly affect your health, your work life, your home life, and your leisure activities. So it's important to gather information and to make thoughtful decisions about what's going on in your life. But it's also not helpful to do things like spending 12 hours a day on social media or 15 hours a day consuming news that can oftentimes be really distressing and isn't necessarily, after a certain point, going to help you make effective decisions for your life. So with that in mind, let's move on to some strategies that can help you during the exposure time to make it more effective and help you engage in a logical problem solving process rather than leading you down a path of worry. All right, so after you've set aside your exposure time and you've decided, okay, I'm going to worry about Let's use the coronavirus as an example. I'm going to worry about COVID and everything that I need to be worried about and concerned about between the hours of 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. So I'm going to give myself that hour. I'm going to gather my information, and I'm going to make decisions about what other, information I need, or about decisions I need to make based on that information. The first thing that you should do once you set up that exposure time and you have that set in your mind is to also come up with strategies to make sure that before that time and after that time, you have a bookended experience prepared for yourself to cope both before and after. Now, you're exposing yourself to what you know is going to be either distressing or upsetting, or is going to lead to pain or suffering or just discomfort in some way. So we're already going to prepare ourselves for the idea that exposure time is going to be exposing us to unpleasant and uncomfortable things. And as a way of managing that discomfort, and as a way of making sure that it doesn't spill out into other areas of your life so that it does stay a very specific exposure time period, you're going to want to have activities that are going to help you relax, lower your emotions, lower the intensity of your emotions and stress, so that your brain is able to make logical decisions and to really be fully mindful and present when you're gathering in this information. The second thing you're going to want to do is to really make sure that you are taking your time and approaching concerns one at a time. If you feel that the time you've set aside is not long enough to adequately address the concerns that you have, for example, let's say that you only want to do the hour between 3 and 4, but you don't want to do it every single day. You just want to do it every couple of days. But you start to realize that maybe that's not enough time for me to gather all of the information. There's a lot of news coming out. There's a lot of different sources I would like to check in with just to make sure I'm getting adequate information. And I want to be able to follow up with this information before I go into problem solving. That's fine. You can decide how much time you need, especially if it's done in a logical, rational way. But what you don't want to do is try to start tackling multiple concerns and kind of whipping yourself up into a frenzy where you maybe start to clump in concerns that might not even be yours. So for example, you start to think about, oh gosh, well, I need to be worried about this, and I need to get a mask, and oh my gosh, the masks probably aren't going to work, and then I need to do this, and I need to do this, and I need to do this. And suddenly you have concerns that might not even be valid getting lumped in with concerns that are valid, and it's hard to problem solve and piece those apart because now your emotions are raising and you're not thinking logically. So take time to really piece apart what you're thinking about and what you're concerned with. The third recommendation is to allow yourself to just ride the wave of whatever emotions do arise. In dialectical behavior therapy, we talk about riding the wave as a way of kind of managing whatever may come. You're not going to lean in too hard into the emotions to where, for example, if you start to feel sad, you're not going to force yourself to cry. You're not going to force yourself to cry harder. You're not going to lean into it, but you're also not going to lean away from it and try to avoid it or push it off or pretend like it's not there. It's just a matter of allowing it to present itself, acknowledging it when it does, feeling it, and letting it subside again. Most emotions come and go within a very relatively short period of time. We can't maintain intense emotions for a long period of time because we don't have the energy for it. So really, riding the wave helps you conserve energy, but it also helps keep you in a more logical mind frame where you're able to cognitively understand the emotions we're experiencing. And that is the definition of processing something. It's cognitively understanding what you're emotionally experiencing. The fourth recommendation that we have is to write stuff down. A lot of times, especially with worry cycles, it's really easy to get wrapped up into concerns and to play them over and over and over again until they seem much bigger than they actually are. Another really important thing about writing things down is that you can oftentimes have a much better understanding of what you're working with and what you're dealing with when you write it down, so that you can actually engage in problem solving rather than just worrying about the same concern or even having the same sentence running over and over and over again in your head about the same 3 concerns. It's really important to be able to move and build productively on the information that you have rather than getting stuck. So writing it down can oftentimes help you realize, okay, this is what I'm focused on, and I'm just repeating the same concerns over and over and over again. Finally, Challenge positive and negative beliefs that you have that keep you stuck in worry, or that contribute to the idea that worry somehow is productive for you. So a lot of times, for example, people will say, oh, well, if I don't worry, I'm not going to be able to figure this out. Or, there's no way I can stop worrying. Everyone in my family worries, and this is how I am, and this is how my brain works. That's actually not true. Most of us learn this behavior, and most of us can unlearn it. So this is really a process of challenging some of the things that you're thinking and challenging some of the beliefs that you have that keep you stuck or trapped in this mental process. And now we're going to get into some questions that you can ask yourself to help challenge some of those beliefs and also kind of challenge some of the logic of thinking spirals. So I know on the slide that was a long list of questions, so I won't go over all of them or read them to you. You can go over them on your own and kind of look and see which questions work for you. And you can kind of get a sense of what the overall function of those questions are, which is that you're really trying to engage in a process of acknowledging that worry is repetitive negative thinking that is based on guesses, assumptions, and predictions about the future that may not necessarily be true or even likely. And that's one of the questions that I think is really helpful for myself and for other people that I work with in therapy, is that you have a lot of worries, but the process of questioning yourself is to help you reality test a little bit about, yes, this could happen, but is it likely? Is it probable? And if it does happen, is it going to be as destructive and horrible as I think it's going to be? Or is the worry about it actually more detrimental to me than what the actual occurrence would be to me? So it's really helpful to kind of find questions that can cue you into your thinking process and will kind of slowly over time serve as a trigger for you that, okay, I'm off in a thinking spiral right now. I'm worrying myself unnecessarily. How can I get back to a more logical thought process so that I can actually decide, do I need to engage in problem solving right now? Do I need to make decisions? Or do I just need to take a break and step back from this because it's really not helping me move forward and make decisions for my future?